All right. All right. Welcome and thank you, everybody, for joining us into our webinar, Supercharge Intune Nerdio Manager Insights and Security Pilot. I'm Thomas Steinmetz, Managing Partner of EBF, and together with me is Jerome Patterson, our Director of our Microsoft practice, together with our distinguished guests and partners, Brittany Dennis and Chad Frisky from Nerdio. And just a few housekeeping items. We are recording this session, and feel free to submit your questions via Q&A during the presentation. We'll get to answer all your questions at the end of the Q&A. A little bit about EBF and why we're hosting this webinar. EBF is a 30-year veteran in what we call the modern workplace and security and AI technology. Uh, have served many customers in all kinds of different workplace technologies, and as many of you have helped many of those customers transition to Microsoft Intune, and that's why we've invested many of our resources into understanding, managing, and helping customers succeed with modern workplace from Microsoft. One of the ways we've helped customers achieve to utilize the Microsoft licensing is with our EBF Onboarder. This is a tool that we've developed a little over 10 years ago. It is a SaaS tool that has helped many of our customers transition millions of devices, anywhere from Windows, iOS, macOS, and Android to Microsoft Intune without any friction on there. One of the things that we did notice, and we did hear from a lot of our customers once they've migrated to Intune, is the desire to have a little bit more granularity and visibility into the reporting of compliance and security of those devices that they've migrated into Intune. And with that said, I'd like to hand it over to Jerome Patterson, our Microsoft practice lead, to dive a little bit deeper into that.
Thank you, Thomas. And what I really want to do is sort of set the stage for the rest of today's discussion in terms of some of the key themes and really patterns that we see across many of our Microsoft customers. And what we're seeing really consistently is that it's not so much about adopting cloud now, it's how do we operate it efficiently at scale. And so the challenges, really sort of three patterns emerge. One is just speed. Too often data latency and endpoint management really results in looking at yesterday's information and not what's really happening now in the organization. Second, visibility. What we see is that the native tooling just does not have necessarily the granular detail, the segmentation, the real-time insights that many of you in the audience need to really efficiently manage a large globally distributed environment. And then third, just cost. In order to compensate for some of this, many of you are implementing sometimes very expensive sort of third-party tools. You're doing a lot of custom scripting and those sorts of things to try to fill the gaps. And then finally, we're going to touch on the fact that we all are always looking for kind of the ROI in these things. And with the software metering that we'll dive into deeper, you actually have the ability to have very hard ROI by knowing what software is actually being used, not just deployed. So what do we see in the organizations that are really sort of getting ahead on this? I think there's just two fundamental strategic shifts that are kind of embedded into what you see there. First, it's really about simplifying the operating model, consolidating on Intune, which many of you obviously are on that journey. Hopefully, some of you are using EBF Onboarder in order to do that consolidation, but that at least gives you the single control plane and allows you to move towards more of a zero-touch, automated device lifecycle. And then secondly, we're going to talk a lot about that true data and intelligence layer. And so leveraging Graph API, centralized data platform, the sorts of things that give you that real-time visibility across your devices, your applications, and even your security posture. And so again, we'll talk more about the software metering, but that's going to allow you to see what's not just what's deployed, but what's actually being used. And so finally, what's the impact when you are able to deploy solutions such as this? Well, first and foremost, significant cost reduction. And really eliminating overlapping tools and having a clean sort of solution. Faster real-time decision making, very key here in today's world. And then finally, reduce manual effort for the IT teams based on deploying these solutions. And again, reclaiming those unused software license gives you a very clear ROI case to present to your leadership. And so really in sort of closing, what we're talking about is not adding more tools. In fact, it's eliminating a lot of those, simplifying the environment, improving visibility, and really moving this more to a data-driven, insightful sort of exercise. And so we get away from just purely managing devices to really managing data-driven outcomes. And so with that, I'd like to turn it over to Chad Frisk, our Nerdio partner manager, to dive deeper into their organization and capabilities.
Thank you, Jerome. So before we get into this, I'd like to really give our attendees background on Nerdio. As a Microsoft pure play, Nerdio has worked very closely with the Microsoft team on the end user compute side and now on the endpoint side to develop tooling that, as we've heard through this presentation so far, reduce the manual nature, increase scale, increase effective management, reduce costs. So really, over the next couple slides, I'm going to list or go over a couple things about Nerdio, who we are, what we do, and also talk about some of the more specific challenges you have with endpoint management with Intune and how we solve for that. Next slide. So Nerdio is a unified management system. We're agentless, and we sit across a user's Azure environment. We're designed to optimize your costs as well as accelerate deployment, reduce the complexity of managing your end user compute as well as your endpoint management devices and estate. From a management of or minimization of costs, we can achieve anywhere between 35 to 80% in Azure infrastructure costs, as well as acceleration of deployment. We've seen a very significant uptick in deploying AVD and other tooling. The areas that we focus upon are in Azure Virtual Desktops, Windows 365, Azure Local, but more specifically, Microsoft Intune. And as I tell customers and partners all the time, without Intune, you cannot do Windows 365, which is a big push for a lot of clients. I would see that most clients are looking to really play or use and leverage most of the tooling, if not all of the tooling that we see here on the right-hand side. Next slide. So some of the challenges we have with native Intune are listed here in the upper left: compliance blind spots, conflicts with policy, bottlenecks within remote support, too many tooling, and a lot of clients are looking to consolidate their tools, as well as paying for unused licenses and repurposing those licenses to get the most out of the investment. No policy safety net. There is also one area that I would say I did not even call out in this, but with Nerdio Manager for Intune, we do give you hardened policy right out of the gate at no extra cost. And then the last is Intune ends at the endpoints. So some of the areas that I'm calling out on where we fix or solve for some of these areas, the blind spots, it's really giving you customizable live dashboards that give you historical reporting and give you the ability to make very informed decisions at your fingertips. The policy conflicts, we give you the ability to see policy A or B, and you get to see where these are showing conflict. And in addition to that, we're giving you the ability of how to solve for those problems. Remote support bottlenecks. Now, this is a very interesting piece because it not only empowers your ability to make changes without any disruption to your users, but it also gives you the ability to possibly consolidate tooling that you're already paying for. There are those remote support or remote tooling out there that are independent of Microsoft that you might buy. This with Console Connect gives you a much more informed solution to make choices, make changes to the environment, again, without making any impact to the end user's experience. In addition, we can do session recording, so it also becomes a security play. Too many tools and contracts. A lot of customers are looking for ways that they can consolidate their tools. We do this through providing a one pane of glass, a single pane of glass in not only looking at Intune, but also giving you the ability to see AVD, Windows 365, and also insights to the overall experience in those areas. Also consolidating unused licenses. So looking at what estate you have, how much those folks are using those licenses, and then either repurposing those licenses or making them right-sized for the end users. We also give you the ability to do backup and restore for Intune policies. So that allows you to use a lower level RBAC person within the organization to make those changes, put in a restore point, and also do backups as well. So that saves time for management and also empowers those folks that are lower within the organization. And lastly, but not least, we have the ability to reduce the reliance of SCCM by automating those tasks within Intune and integrating everything into AVD as well as Windows 365. But without further ado, I'd like to pass the ball to my counterpart, Brittany Dennis, to do a hands-on demo.
Thank you, Chad. So with Nerdio Manager for Enterprise, when you integrate Intune with it, you have the capability to manage all of your platforms. So whether that's going to be AVD, Windows 365, Mac OS, Android, iOS, you can all do it from a single pane of glass. When the integration is complete, you will get an overview like this. Your endpoint blade will populate on the left, and you'll see a high level of all of the devices within your infrastructure. Now, as you can see here within our infrastructure, we have a list of our devices. We'll have the name, the device details, some provisioning, how the overall compliance is looking, as well as the last time that the device did synchronize. You have the capability within this portal to also do bulk actions that may take place. You can deep dive on the details to see what's going on within the properties. So you have a high-level overview. You're going to see your Entra and Intune device ID. You'll be able to view the compliance, drill down into policies, view applications, even your hardware details. So you'll be able to see all the specifics that within the that happen within the device, as well as have the capability to edit any group memberships directly from Nerdio. Now, depending on your RBAC role, you do also have the capability to initiate any tasks. Now, as soon as you hit these three dots, you'll be able to see these tasks that will populate for you. For this individual, I'm going to show you the cloud PC, and you'll see we have some options. We can restart, reprovision, restore, resize. We also have our Console Connect tool, and we'll talk about that further. But our Console Connect tool is our remote management. So you have that integrated, so you have the capability to remote manage into any of your Windows OSs today to provide any troubleshooting. And that can be either live with the user on, or we also have our toolbox, which is not interactive if that user is not available, but we do meet GDPR compliance. So we will also have some different adjustments that can be done there, and we'll deep dive that. All of these actions can take place as well with bulk actions. So you have the capability to do more than one device at a time. With our Console Connect, you can see we have two options. We have the ability to do toolbox or interactive session. The interactive session is going to be when somebody's online, where toolbox is going to be when somebody's unattended. We're going to do the interactive today. So you can see when I do the toolbox, I have some different capabilities. I have the ability to navigate to the command prompt, run PowerShell, so I can do any scripts to troubleshoot. I can view the processes within the task manager, all the services, review the device manager and what's going on within the device, see the hardware diagnostics, and we'll pull all that data for us so we can troubleshoot. As we navigate to policy management, with policy management in native Intune today, we still have kind of a one-for-one. We can do compliance, configuration, security baselines, conditional access, Intune app policies, and Windows updates. What set us apart is we have that capability to set up automatic and manual backups. Automated is set up at integration. You set it and forget it, create your retainment policies. And manual process, you can actually manually back up these policies that will be stored in your repository so you can use them later on. With manual backups, you'll have the capability to create a backup, then name that backup, and then store it and remediate it and use it later. And I'm going to walk you through that now. So you can see our account test policy. We're going to do a manual backup. We'll select that backup. We'll name that change log here. It is going to process that backup in real time. Our backup has now went from 50 backups to 51. Now, if I need to manage or restore to a previous version, I'll hit Manage Backups. Here, I'm going to have a list of every time that policy changed, who initiated the change, the version, and when it took place. I'll have the capability to then restore the policy and assignment, or restore the assignment only. Now, you'll see here at the top, you have an orphan blade. And for a little bit of disaster recovery, if we have a backup that is registered within Nerdio, you have the capability, if a policy is accidentally backed up and restored, you have the capability to do that. You can compare the policy of every version that took place and see the change via the JSON, along with the assignments, so you can make sure that you are selecting the correct policy to restore. You can also see when it was backed up, who initiated it, and where it was modified. If it was modified via Nerdio or if it was modified in Intune, it will populate there for you. You'll be able to see if there's an automatic backup or if it was manual. You'll see that automated that will pop up for you. And our orphan blade will let you know if a policy was accidentally deleted in native Intune today. If that is the occurrence, you'll have the capability. It will populate here for you and you can restore that policy. Now that policy will be restored in native Intune as well as Nerdio, but it will not be directly assigned. You will have to go and reassign it to your device or dynamic group. But this way you no longer have to worry about recreating that policy and what individual settings are there for you, as Nerdio will hold all that information. With Windows 365, if you're moving to your cloud PC journey, you have the capability to create provisioning policies, assign network connections, assign local user rights and admin rights, as well as check for any alerts. To create a policy, you can name that policy, assign the license, select the image, whether it's a gallery image or a managed personal image. You'll then select your region as well as your network connection, and then assign it directly to your Microsoft Entra group for provisioning and deployment. Now, with our cloud PCs, we have the capability to also do migration. We're one of the 4 partners. So you do have the capability to migrate a personal AVD to Windows 365 seamlessly. To do that, you would go to your host pool, and as your host pool pulls up for you, you'll see the option that you have the capability to seamlessly migrate over. So we'll go over to our taskbar and hit Migrate to Windows 365. Here we have the option to create a new provisioning policy or select an existing. We would select our policy, then follow through with any user settings, assign the licensing group, and hit deploy. For configuration policy issues, Nerdio is going to run a consistent analysis on how your users are assigned to groups and policies and check and to ensure that there are any potential conflicts that could arise that could prevent either compliance or any confusion for a policy to go through. Here we'll outline that for you so you have a better deep dive of how the policy flows are working. I personally like the flow chart. So as it's running the analysis against the users, you'll be able to see different parameters and different items. It's going to let you know if there is any potential conflicts that it could hide or cause any issues for, and then highlight that for you. If you guys currently work with a change management program or change management workflow, and there's approvals that have to take place prior to any updates or creation of a policy, you can enable that here in Nerdio as well. Here you'll create an approval process and it will come into a change log. You'll be able to see if they're pending or canceled, and then another admin can come in and either approve it and deny it. At the time that it is approved, you do have the capability, it will automatically deploy that update or creation of policy. Now, until the approval has been processed, we will hold the whole configuration in Nerdio, and then as soon as it is approved, you will see the configuration in the change in native Intune's logging as well. Now let's talk a little bit about automation. With automation, we have had a lot of customers that have said navigating off of SCCM, they were really going to miss out on their sequenced tasks. And being able to initiate task sequences is just something that they would love to have over. So what we have created is scripted sequences. Here you have the capability to initiate scripted tasks to do different items against your infrastructure. For example, we have a scripted sequence where we're going to install Adobe and set some icons. Here you'll configure the tasks and assign the assignment group, and these tasks will initiate against your deployments. We have to install the Adobe, then you can put to restart, install Notepad, and then the next sequence will be to delay that task. So you have that capability when you're trying to transition and navigate from SCCM to an Enter or cloud-based. We also have brought over our scripted actions. So you have the capability to utilize Windows scripts, Azure runbooks, and scripted actions in different task groups as well. Now let's talk a little bit about our insights and the advanced reporting that we do offer. With our insights, you're going to have the capability to view an in-depth reporting. We'll start with our executive blade first. With our executive blade, we're going to provide all the return on investments. You're going to see your ABD cost, any projected native cost, what you're saving with Nerdio Manager, your return on investment, as well as your users, average logon time, and your connection health. All the things that the C-level execs usually need advanced analytics on. As we go to our real-time insights, we are providing real-time insights no longer at the interval clock cycle. So you have the capability to check your CPU, memory, disk space, GPU across the different platforms, whether that's AVD, Windows 365, or your physical endpoints. You can check and see the status up to 10,000. It checks consistently every minute. Over 20,000 users, it's about 2 to 3 minutes. So it's no longer waiting at that interval of check-in for that Intune agent. And you can drill down into the physical endpoints for even more details. You'll see here, we can verify the host, see the CPU usage. We can check the memory over time, along with the disk space. And if they are logged on and connected, you have the capability to check the Wi-Fi quality. See if there's any channel congestion. Check your gateway response, as well as the internet response. If there's any applications that are pertaining on the device and open to the device, they will show up here along with their memory and usage. And you'll be able to set any alerts and thresholds as well. For our Windows 365 reporting, as people are starting to navigate to Cloud PC, we're getting a lot of feedback that they wanted advanced analytics, so we wanted to provide that for them. Here, you'll have a whole dashboard pertaining to Windows 365. You'll have the capability to see your active users, your concurrent sessions, a breakdown of your licensing and how it looks, the device health, your utilization, are you overutilized or underutilized? And then Nerdio is going to run an analysis and let you know about any current recommendations we have to make sure that you have the best user experience for your users and you're optimized for cost as well. You'll be able to see session protocols, the device type, and even devices without a login. With our Intune insights, we got a lot of feedback that Intune has a lot of data, but having to utilize Power BI, Intune Data Warehouse, and running different scripts can be kind of cumbersome. So we wanted to provide a customizable dashboard that will provide all that information for you. So here in Intune Insights, you have the capability to use our default dashboard. You'll see we're going to list things from compliance breakdown by department or the top issues that are going on within the environment. We'll provide OS patch status health, as well as warranty coverage for our Dell lifecycle for our physical endpoints, and we will be expanding further to other platforms. You have the capability to customize and create your own dashboard. Add any additional widgets that fit your personal admin needs that you need to run on day to day to make sure this is completely customizable for your business use case. If we want to deep dive into devices, here's where we take it a step further. With native Intune reporting, we focus on compliance, where we're going to take it a step further. We want to make sure that, yes, the devices are compliant, but we also want to make sure our configuration status, our applications are healthy, and our patching is up to date. So we're going to run analytics on those 4 different parameters. And we can see across them if they are healthy, if there is a yellow or amber alert, or if the patch status is high due to the severity issue. We can deep dive into a particular device, see the last time it's synchronized, check that it's compliant, view the patch status, and see if there's any warranty attached. We can get all the details we want in regards to the properties. See the patches. I can see every patch that was installed on the device, and if there's any patches that are overdue, along with the build number and version. With compliance and configuration policies, I can see the config policies that have gone through all successfully, and I can see the ones that have gone through or have some errors that haven't populated through, so we can go and remediate those in real time. As we go and deep dive into our different parameters, you can see all the patches. So we'll be able to see every patch in the lowest OS version. We can see all the applications that pertain to the device and the different versions that are assigned and where they are assigned to each user. So we can drill into those. We can view our OS health and see which operating system is within support and what devices they're attached to, any certificates that are on the devices and their expiration. And now we can view our trends. And what I love about the trends is we can view our trends over time. So here, when you integrate Nerdio, you have the capability to decide what is the severity across those parameters. So the day after patch Tuesday in native Intune today, usually everything's red. But in most infrastructures and companies today, we do deployments in a phased approach. So that kind of makes the trends and analytics not completely accurate. Here we can configure when something is considered a red alert, when something is considered amber. And we can check over time. It's no longer just a 30-day period. We can go back 90 days, 180 days. We have the capability to hold all of those logs so we can check our status and compliance over a longer bandwidth of time, all in one infrastructure. Now, if we want to go to our issues blade is going to list all the issues that pertain in the environment along with their severity. Here we'll be able to remediate them and go through them based on the severity. Now, when it comes to severity, if you want to think about it, you have the capability to decide what is important to you. So we can use that to kind of remediate those issues first. Our reporting is going to give us our built-in reports. Recommendations is going to give us any recommendations that Nerdio is doing based on our usage for the users. So here we're going to get different statuses based on our usage, our licensing, during real time of what our users are using day to day to provide better user experience as well as optimization for the company. One I want to talk about is going to be our license sustainability. So let's say you are using Cloud PC, and depending on the usage of our users, it's going to let us know if we're using the correct licenses for our users. You can see here, we have a Windows 365 Enterprise, but it's recommending that we actually switch this license to a Frontline Dedicated and showing that we could save $42. Let's dig deeper into that. So we have 3 Windows 365 Enterprise licenses today with our cost of $84. It's recommending that we move to Frontline Dedicated, which is a 3-to-1, which would potentially give us a cost savings. We're even going to outline it even further and let you know how that one license is going to apply to our users below. So you can see the users that one license will be shared with. We can deep dive that even further to ensure that there's no usage overlap and that this will be successful when it comes to our customers and their deployment to make sure that they're not overutilized and can share that license sufficiently. We're also going to do an analysis to make sure that these licenses are being used. And due to different connection times and the usage overall in a 28-day period, you may get the recommendation to reclaim a license and what that would potentially look like as for the cost. So you can see here we have a couple of cloud PCs and their connective time is just not really worth the cost for the license. So Nerdio is going to put in that recommendation for you and your admins to review that maybe you should potentially reclaim that license and reassign it somewhere else. Now, a good thing about all these analysis is it was based on a rule calculator. We worked personally with Microsoft, Gartner, and Forrester to come up with these different rules. Now, these are baseline rules. You'll be able to see what your Nerdio Manager licensing will cost and also the total cost of ownership. These are baseline policies, but they can all be adjusted. You'll be able to add a Microsoft discount if you're receiving one. You can make any adjustments to your overhead. You do have the capability to also add any additional custom lines if they don't see fit here. So it can do a complete analysis that fits your personal use case to run the best total cost of ownership and provide the closest return on investment to you. Now let's move to applications. Within applications, you have the capability to link your Intune repository. At integration, you can link that repository, or you can utilize a private or public winget and link those so that your applications can be deployed and verified through the unified catalog. Here within the unified catalog, you have the capability to deploy winget applications, shell apps, app attach, and you can deploy them. We can do a deployment policy and also push out one-time deployments. To do a deployment policy, you'll see here that we can list the deployments of the applications in a numerical order. This is actually the numerical order that they will deploy in to the end user's device. You have the capability to install the app, install a group, uninstall, trigger reboot after installation, and you have the capability to choose how you want to deploy that. Are we going to deploy it straight to our AVDs, or we want to deploy it via the Intune agent? Now, We do hear a lot of feedback that sometimes when it comes to deploying application, there can be some delay or latency depending on how it will complete all of the devices to get those policies. We now have the capability to use our endpoint worker, and you'll see that it's in preview. And you can actually target the endpoint worker to use your synchronized tasks to deploy those applications without needing to use the Intune agent. So it kind of takes away that latency issue to make those deployments. At this time, it's at 100 devices per deployment, but it gives you that capability to expedite any of those application deployments that need to see fit.
Excellent demo, Brittany. Excellent demo. Thank you so much. So let's talk about what this looks like in real life. One example I'd like to share is we've migrated last year a very large beverage manufacturer with about 150,000 mobile endpoints to Microsoft Intune. And about 6 months later, the customer came back to us and said, "Hey, Thomas, hey, EBF, we now have all our mobile endpoints into Intune. The end users, delivery drivers, frontline workers, you name it. We're now looking to get a little bit more granular visibility. What's the latest OS version that those end users have? What is the app version that they have? Because they cannot be down, and what we see in Intune is maybe an 8 to 24-hour lag, and that's just unacceptable if the product is not being delivered, which I think leads to the number one question, which is, what does native Intune look like compared to Nerdio, and what am I getting more out of Nerdio than just using Intune?
Absolutely. So we did a comparison recently with one of our customers, and you have actually the capability to take it that step further that I was trying to show. But we actually did a comparison against native Intune today for devices, and then looked at the same devices in Nerdio and had a lot of different discrepancies. And I have a kind of a better document to show this. So here you can see in Intune, we saw that all the devices were compliant, all of our windows. So to a regular admin, without drilling down and having the time to drill down into everything, it looks like this device is ready to go. It's fine. But if we take it a step further and look at it through Nerdio's eyes, we can see, yes, that individual device is compliant, but we still had some issues. You can see that the devices had issues when it came to configuration policies. Not all the policies were deploying or the individual settings. We had some applications that weren't the latest version and weren't updated. And then we even had we had a device that hadn't been patched in 2 years. So we took it a step further to where you can see there's more granularity without having to dive deeper, to where this could have been bypassed natively, where it said, oh, the device is compliant, let's move on, there's no issues. When you can actually see that you can get more granular into the security and remediation of each device.
That's a great example, and that's really actionable. I mean, looking at what I get out of Intune natively doesn't help me much to do so. It doesn't let me know what the state of my environment is, but being able to see what's actually going on, being able to take some action is a great way to get the value out of Nerdio. Another thing that you teased on about, and I'd like to just mention talk about was the software metering portion. We recently worked with you and your team to help a customer that also migrated to Intune Financial Services. They saw some great value in the reporting and whatnot. Signed up for a 12-month contract with us. Adobe was also a pain point. They spent about $60,000 a year for Adobe licenses, but didn't really know who's really using all the Adobe licenses or not. And by having access to the beta version of what you've teased on, what's about to launch, they saw immediate ROI, and they're looking to actually extend their contract for another 3 years once their Adobe contract's up for renewal, and they're able to cut back on those licenses on there. Can you just touch a little bit more about the software metering that's about to come?
Yeah, software metering is going to be coming out in our 8.0 version in public preview, and you'll have the capability. Nerdio is going to run an analysis on all of your user subscriptions, your licensing, those applications, and let you know in real time if they're using it. So this way you can do that return on investment and see, do we actually need $30,000 in Adobe licensing each year when only probably about 40% of our end users are actually utilizing it day to day. So it gives you a great analysis of what applications, what subscriptions that you guys are currently and the customers paying for that's actually being utilized and needs to be remediated. And that can take back, that you can take back for those contracts and those renewals with your different subscription providers.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Any other real life customer
Yeah.
examples you'd like to share?
So we recently worked with the city of Corona and we participated in two different phased approaches. So we participated in their Windows 365 migration. They were AVD and looking to migrate over to Windows 365 and really needed some assistance to do so quickly. We actually helped them with our migration tool to kind of do that seamlessly and get that transition done in probably half the time it would have took them to do it manually. We also extended their physical endpoints. And one of their main pain points that they weren't even actually aware of was how many policy conflicts they actually had. And when they linked and integrated with Nerdio, they were able to see that they had over 200 policy conflicts in their environment. So those were different settings that weren't triggering non-compliance, but weren't being targeted to their end users just due to being conflicting and into not knowing which policy took precedence. So it was really good to provide that clarity in their environment and get those resolved.
Excellent. Thank you, Brittany. Now let's transition to some Q&A out there from the audience. I think the first one will go to you, Chad. We had a question about how does Nerdio replace Citrix on Omnissa as it's just a management plane and not the presentation layer? What's your
Yeah,
answer?
so the question is, do we replace Intune? Do we replace Citrix and Omnissa? I'd like to take a step back for folks. A lot of customers are looking to consolidate tooling and they're looking to leverage and utilize the tools that they've already paid for. So for example, with Microsoft, depending on what licensing and entitlements you have ABD, you may have more likely have Intune. And we become that enhancement. We become that single pane of glass, that user interface that enables you to make much more intelligent decisions. We enable you to save costs. So when you start to look at a presentation layer, like some of the veterans out there in the virtualization space, anything you're going to put Microsoft over a presentation layer, you're going to pay for an RDS Cal per user, right? So if you're leveraging Microsoft Native and you're putting Nerdio into that mix, we're enabling you to save costs depending on whatever virtualization or end user compute tool you use. And we're also enabling you to make way better decisions, way better security impact to your environment, whether it be on the virtualized side or the endpoint side. So no, we're not a replacement for Intune, and we're not a replacement for AVD or Windows 365. We're really that platform that enables you to have a much better experience, much more informed experience, and hopefully that answers the question.
Oh, excellent, Chad. Yeah, I mean, this is what we've seen too. I mean, the CISOs of organizations make a macro decision, consolidating everything into Microsoft to see an overall cost savings for the organization. But then on a micro level for Intune admins or for virtual desktop admins, they then say, hey, but we need to have this visibility. We need to have that granularity. And there the option is to either do it yourself, develop some scripts, or to invest in a tool that can already do it at a very cost-efficient manner, which is Nerdio in this case. So another question on there, which we got from the audience is, why does Insights just report or patches instead of actually applying them? I think that's for you, Brittany.
That's a great question. Our first step was to provide the data and the information. Long term, that data within Insights will have remediation options that can be configured. But the main goal was for us to first get the information out for you guys so you guys could make those changes that need to be done that you can't see day to day natively, or it's hard, it's difficult. It's a lot of different blades, different portals to get drilled down into the information. So long term, yes, you will see up and coming. We have a lot of different things that will also offer automatic remediation and different aspects that way.
Great, thank you. The next question, I believe we answered already, but I'll mention it just in case. So how exactly is Intune Insights better than the standard Intune reporting?
I kind of
Anything you
think we
want to add to
already
that?
answered that already, but we'll highlight it again. Standard Intune reporting is there and it's great, but to get the in-depth that you need, it usually takes hours building Power BI or integrating with Intune Data Warehouse and pulling that OData feed and then building out those workflows. Why take all that admin time when we can have it readily available for you? And we take it a step further. We're more focused on the individual task within the environment and not just compliance itself. We want to make sure that the whole infrastructure is up to date and correct. We want to make sure, and we have a real emphasis on patching and OS health, and we're expanding our warranty. So for the physical endpoints, why have to manage the life cycle of those devices? We're hoping that depending on where you get your devices, right now we only have Dell, but we're in works with HP, Lenovo, Microsoft, Mac. So as you start to purchase from these, it's automatically going to manage that life cycle for you. So we have a lot of things up to come.
And Chad, you raised your hand.
Yeah, one thing I didn't touch on, Thomas, was pricing. So uh, I think it's very important to state our premium licensing, which covers all of our products, is $10 per month per user, and then core licensing is basically a management offering that is $6 per user per month. Um, for illustration purposes, if we have 100 users and we have premium licensing, you'd have the ability to manage your Intune for those 100 users. You would have the ability to manage AVD and Windows 365. If you have above that 100, it comes down on the Intune side, it comes down to $1 per user. That is scalable depending on quantity and term. So the one thing I want to be very clear on is we've done many different studies on the amount of users. And what we found is around 300 users per month, Nerdio pays for itself in about 6 days. So when you again remove the RDS Cal requirements, you look at the cost compression on the infrastructure, and you start to look at even the soft costs on environmental as well as your team reduction or your team repurposing, I should say. You're going to see a lot of different savings in a lot of different ways.
Cool. Thanks, Chad. Thanks for clarifying. Another question is, how are the dashboards supposed to help us fix things faster? I think that's kind of
I
a
think the
given.
dashboards provide visibility. And a lot of times you have different admins each day that run different tasks, are responsible for different monthly reports. So being able to customize and have that already built out and then readily available for you, I think just gives you that more enhancement and visibility into the issue and providing those documents and having those documents readily available, like with the built-in reports. And we're adding on those daily. So as we get requests for customized reports or customized queries, we take all of that feedback and create that. So your custom dashboard as an admin, whether you're on the virtualization and you're doing the AVD, or if you're physical endpoints only for a region in the US, you can customize what you see in that insight report to pertain to your job detail each day. So you're weeding out the extra noise.
Thank you, Brittany. And last but not least, do you have any real world examples? I think we shared a few already. This one's asking specifically about catching hidden endpoint issues. Any more examples you'd like to share?
The main issues that we seem to find is patching that has been delayed or hasn't come through, and those configuration issues. It's crazy how many times we'll do an integration or a pilot or proof of value, and they have no idea that there's so many policies or so many devices that have configuration policy conflicts because they're still showing as compliant because overall the device is compliant. So being able to remediate those seems to take a lot of the legwork off of the admins each day just because you kind of have to drill down like the needle in the haystack, drill through the blades in Intune today to go through and find if there's any policy configurations
Cool. Thank
that
you.
have
And
issues.
Thomas, if I may, it strikes me that we see this a lot, and there's an undercurrent to a lot of these questions that we assume everybody in the audience is running into, and they have a choice to make. Do they want to look at a solution like Nerdio or go build things themselves? And we see it time and time again. Yes, you can absolutely build, custom scripts and your own Power BI, but then you're kind of stuck in that dangerous cycle of we have to constantly be updating and modifying as the Nerdio is investing, they're innovating. We talked about the obvious example of looking at actual usage of your software licensing, the software metering. So they're going to continue to innovate. And I would just encourage everybody to realize it's not just can we do something to survive today, but where do we really want to place our bets? How do we want to free ourselves up with a solution like Nerdia that allows us to actually go after real value and not just keep kind of maintaining the order in our house? So,
No, thank you, Jerome. Any last words of wisdom from Chad or Brittany? You had raised your hand.
I just want to call out that our update cycle is about 8 weeks. So we update new features. Usually it's a minimum of 20 features every 8 weeks. A lot of our features come from direct feedback with our customers. We work very closely with our customers. My personal job is I work with the dev team and I fight for the customer. I put what gap that they're seeing, whether it's in native Intune, whether it's in Nerdio, and how we can bring it to the forefront to remediate that issues, whether it's time, return on investment. So it's not waiting for a feature request or hoping that something comes in a year from now, 3 years from now. We are consistently innovating. We are consistently changing, and we can't wait to see how we grow. So it's one of the best things about being part of Nerdio.
Very
Yeah, the
cool.
one thing I'll add to that is we recently had Scott Manchester, who I call him the godfather of end user compute for Microsoft because he, for 20 some plus years was there and was developing things. We've worked alongside him. He just joined us as our field CTO and head of product. We also had Christian Brinkhoff, I think either yesterday or the day before, that was announced as
Yesterday.
joining our team as well. So to add to what Brittany's saying, we do a heavy amount of outside in development, and we also have a lot of alignment and alignment with Microsoft as well. So a lot of really exciting things are coming down the pike.
Awesome. Thank you, Chad. Well, in good old German fashion, we're on time and ready to wrap this up. So thank you everybody for tuning in, for paying attention to us. Awesome demo, good stuff, good use cases. If you do want to learn more, feel free to contact us at sales.us@ebf.com or reach out to any of us directly. Also, just around the corner and close to our neighborhood in lovely Palm Springs, May 4th through 6th, NerdioCon is happening where EBF will be there. And of course, Chad and Brittany are there as well. So we're certainly looking forward and hope to see you there as well. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and have a good rest of your day.